Let's talk about Snoopy. You see, when I was a freshman in high school, I had this blue Snoopy shirt that I think my mom got for me, and I loved it. I wore it all of the time. It was just like a t-shirt that I mostly just wore to like sleep or to work out. I wouldn't like wear it to like school or anything because I always had this weird thing about wearing professional clothes because like school was like my work. It was a whole thing. But the point is, I had the Snoopy shirt and I loved it. The problem was, Shelly, my mother-in-law, well, she didn't exactly feel the same way. You see, for some reason or another, Shelly hated the shirt. She hated it when I wore it. She hated it just seeing it. She absolutely hated this shirt, and she would tell me every time she see me, she'd say, "I hate that shirt." And it only wanted me to make it wear it more. I mean, of course, it was never mean, but it was very clear that she hated the shirt. But unfortunately, well, I grew out of it. Now, typically, when someone grows out a shirt, that's kind of the end of it, right? You take it to Goodwill or you throw it in the trash, it's over, it's done. But I was lucky enough that my girlfriend, now wife, Emily, had and still has, I mean, I hope so, a little brother. And at the time, he was about maybe 9, 10, 11 years old, but the perfect size for the Snoopy shirt. So I give that Snoopy shirt for him. And for another 5 years, Shelly has to continue every single day seeing that shirt that she absolutely hates. And we're loving it. But unfortunately, one day, well, he gets too big for it. And I'm sad. And I'm on winter vacation with Shelly and Emily and Chuck and all them. And I go shopping, which I don't really like doing, but I want to do because Emily wanted me to go with her. And I go into a store and I walk in and I see this shirt. A Snoopy shirt. Now, I hadn't worn a Snoopy shirt in years, but I knew the moment I saw this shirt that this was the shirt for me. And of course, the moment Shelly saw it, she hated it. And I don't think she actually hates the shirt. I think it's just like the scarred memory from the Snoopy, which just makes wearing the shirt all the better. It's just kind of like it's just like every time I wear this shirt, I just win a little bit. You know, it just makes me feel a little bit better because I know that deep down I've won. And sure, one day this shirt will get old and I'll have to throw it away. But then I'll just find another Snoopy shirt and another until the end of time. So the office I work in is right under a gym, and I don't know if you can hear that, but there is which just stops, very loud jumping, slamming of bars and that sort of thing right above me. It's strange how they built it to put like the boardroom office right under the gym. Perhaps they didn't think a lot about that. Look, I'm not an architect. I don't know how it works. It just seems like not the best idea in the world. So every year I submit to a screenplay competition. The first year I submitted to like 10, and every year it's kind of gotten smaller and smaller, where last year I only submitted to Austin and Nichols. And the thing about submitting screenplays is it costs a lot of money. Typically it's $100 per submission, and I typically do 3 submissions per place, which means it is a ton of money. And of course it's like a tax write-off or what have you, but it's still a lot of money to foot the bill. And this is the first years that I'm considering not submitting a script, and I'm going back and forth on it because I don't think I'm going to produce any of these scripts, and I don't want these scripts to just go to waste. They've been sitting in a folder, and I've been looking at them today because I was beginning to start a new script, and I was like, oh, I'll just kind of transfer because the format was a little wonky and I wanted to fix it. And I do really like the scripts, and I don't just want to throw them away. And what if this is the year they don't submit my screenplays, but these are like worthy of that, and I don't know what to do with the scripts. I mean, I guess I could just sit on them forever or until, I make it big if that ever happens, but shooting them doesn't really seem like a possibility. I just don't think we have, what we need to shoot them, and so that means that I don't know. I feel weird not submitting. I mean, I know it's a lot of money, but and I keep getting emails, of course, like, because they want us to give them money. And I just feel weird not submitting, so I'm in this weird place where I don't want to spend the money, but I feel wrong if I don't submit, because this will be the first year since I graduated high school in 6 years. What if this was my year? So I don't know what to do. So when I first left to be on my own in the world, I was very cheap about what I would eat. I saw food merely as a substance to get from point A to B. I didn't see it as something you enjoyed. I just saw it as a way to kind of fuel the body for the things I actually enjoyed doing, like working out and running around and just having fun. So I never saw food as important. And I would eat, and there was a long time that I did this where I would eat just chicken and rice every single day. And when I lived in Colorado, that's the only meal I had. I ate just chicken and rice for like 6 months. And it was fine. I mean, probably not the healthiest thing in the world, but I survived. It fueled me. And up until about 6 months ago, I still ate chicken and rice for lunch every day. Yes, dinner would change, but lunch was always chicken and rice. But because of everything that has been the last 6 months, I just haven't had time to make chicken and rice. And I don't know if I want to go back to making chicken and rice again. It's very time consuming. I mean, it takes 30 to 45 minutes just to cook. And, when I think if I could just throw chicken into an Instapot and it'll take like 5 minutes, I mean, obviously it'll take longer to cook. It still takes like 4 minutes, 5 minutes to cook, but I don't have to like do anything. And so I can spend that time actually doing things. And so part of me kind of wants to make chicken and rice today because I could have the time, but part of me is like, well, you should really do like these like final school things, or you should do that. I don't think chicken and rice is going to be on the menu today, but I do hope it comes back soon. So I should probably do schoolwork or work for the production company or something productive. I mean, I've been pretty productive this morning, but there's always more work to do, and I can always find work to do. And since I'm not, cooking rice and chicken, I do have the time that I used to not have. So I should do that focus on something important. I kind of just want to watch a movie. And I know I really shouldn't be, and I should be focusing on other things. I just miss watching movies so much. And I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning, which is like the earliest I've woken up in a while. So I think I'm just gonna watch a movie. So let's talk about the movie. Actually, 1 second. I call this segment Movie Time. So, I watched Terminator. I watched it on the recommendation of Andrew, my closest friend, loving, and someone who watches as many movies as I do. So I watched the movie, and I came in with a lot of skepticism. I don't like James Cameron. I have yet to see a James Cameron film I have liked. I think Aliens is trash. I think Titanic is one of the worst films ever made. I think the only film worse than Titanic ever to be made is Avatar. It's just a genuinely bad film. But we're talking about Terminator, and so I came in as open-minded as I could be about a James Cameron movie. I knew that I had some problems with his work, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to come in and give an open mind. I've never seen something this early from James Cameron. Maybe I'll like it. So first off, let's just recognize the fact that the practical effects are they're incredible. I mean, yeah, at the end when, he's like just like a metal, like Arnold Schwarzenegger is just like a metal, like literal Terminator. Sure, there is like some parts that are wonky, some like rear rejection stuff when they're like closing the door. But overall, that's a really good segment. I mean, it just looks really good and scary, and you're terrified of it. Problem with that scene, however, it's just really not that interesting. It's just this really slow walking robot, and you fight him off with a metal bar and an explosive. Like that's it. Like there's just no like choreography to it. It's just them walking, like limping around. And then they kill him and you're like, oh good, you think that's in the film. No, there's another 5 minutes of the Terminator and her just like crawling around, and it's just not interesting. Just die already. My next problem is with Sarah Connor. So having not seen the movie but known a lot about the movie, I always assumed Sarah Connor was kind of this giant female protagonist, this very like feminist kind of, badass woman. And maybe that's true in the other films, but in the first film, the Terminator is masculine in all the wrong ways. The kind of very masculine and men and violence and explosions. And the female character, Sarah Connor, is just like a plot device. Like she has very few lines in the film. What lines she do have all have to do with, her being helped by someone else. Like the film, if you think about it, the film isn't actually about Sarah Connor. I came into the film thinking the film was about her. It's not. It's actually about What Kyle? What a terrible name, by the way. It's actually about Kyle and Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, right? Those are the real players. Sarah Connor's basically just the MacGuffin, right? It's just the plot device so we can make everything interesting. She doesn't actually do anything in the film. There's a point in the film where they are driving away from the Terminator. He is shooting a gun while driving. Look, I'm not from the future. I don't know how the future works. It's still another 8 years from now, so who knows? But maybe, I don't know, let her drive. Or give her the gun. Really, either option would make sense, but instead, he does both while she just sits there and screams. And it's just, she is such a frustratingly, like, irritating and boring character, and it pisses me off, because they had so many opportunities to make Sarah Connor this really badass character. Like, oh, but in the end, she kills the Terminator. I mean, kind of. She just happened to be next to a button that just so happened to crush the Terminator, and that just... It's just lazy writing, and especially for female characters. And she's the only... Let's point out that she's really the only interesting and honestly the only female character has more than like 5 lines. And all of her lines are based, right, of just hiding away or running away. I do appreciate how incompetent the LA police are. Like, that, of all the things, just feels like the most accurate. Like, they're just genuine... incompetence, like, I believe that. That's like the most, like, those are the most entertaining moments, is when she's at the police department and just like struggling with these police officers. But what kind of pisses me off, and it goes back to kind of her as a character, she immediately believes these officers. She's like, yeah, you're right, this guy isn't crazy, even though she clearly saw the guy coming after her. Why is she believing the police? She saw the guy trying to murder. He pointed a gun right at her, and he watched Kyle save her, and yet she's still like, well, I don't know about this Kyle guy. He's pretty crazy. Like, fuck off. We're 45 minutes into the film, and you just now learn that the Terminator is a robot? Like, that's fucking... Why? Why? That is something that can happen at the very beginning of the film. Just be like, hey, Terminator, got it, and then we move on. But it doesn't, and there's no real reason for that. And another thing pissed me off is just, like, the future? Like, who cares? Honestly. And I get, like, at one point it's supposed to, like, show, like, oh, look at the character of Kyle. Still a terrible name. But there's really no character development in the future. Like, basically everything that happens in those scenes, he still ends up talking about later. Like, if you could literally just cut out those scenes, it'd be a better film. And I think this is one of James Cameron's biggest problems. Those films are just way too long. He puts way too much information in there. There's a moment early in the film where Sarah Connor is checking, or like she's going to, like, into her job, and she does like the little thing they had back in the 80s, you know, it kind of punches your card so it knows that you came in, and there's like a close-up of Sarah Connor, even though it's very clear by this point that this is clearly Sarah Connor. Like, you don't need to tell us that. It is very obvious. It's just, here's what really pisses me off about James Cameron. He treats his viewers like they're fucking idiots. Like, they have no idea what they're doing. Like they need him to spoon feed them. They don't. And there's just a lot of conversations like that where it's just like exposition for no good reason. And we don't need it. And there's a lot less of it in this movie than I would say any of his other films I've seen. And so obviously this just gets worse, and he trusts the viewers less and less. But I will say, when there's action scenes, they're pretty good. Whoever edited this film together did a really good job. There's a lot of really cool cuts between scenes, and the action scenes are fun and interesting. I do have a problem with Kyle as a character. I mean, first of all, he's just a boring character. There's nothing interesting about him. His literally only motive is that she thinks she is hot. And then there's the whole fucking paradox of Kyle's sleeping with her. Like, I get like, ooh, it's cool, it's a paradox. But also, at the same time, it means there has to be an original future. There has to be a future before he went back, which means in that original future, there has to be, and maybe this is answered in the other movies, I don't know, I haven't seen the second Terminator or any of the other Terminators, maybe all this stuff is answered and I'm just bitching for no reason. But there has to be an original timeline, which means in that original timeline, John Connor doesn't exist. And John Connor doesn't exist in that original timeline. Why did he come back, or how did Kyle come back in the original timeline? Which means that they have to exist at least in the second or third timeline, if not like, right, 100th or, right, how many times have they tried this? And how many times has it failed? And how many more times are they gonna have to continue to try this? Also, there's something very 80s about the movie, and the first 20 minutes, which I think are the best part of the film. And in this part of the film, the way they find her is both Kyle and the Terminator go to a phone book and just look up all the people named Sarah Connor. And they're just like, we're just gonna kill all of them. Like, that's the Terminator's plan. He's just gonna go down the list and kill each and every one of them. Which, like, you're a robot from the future and you have access to all information, but you don't have access to who Sarah Connor is. Whatever, fine. I guess, like, maybe they messed with, like, your memory, or, like, they messed with the data. Okay, I get it. All you have is their name, right? They say that at some point in the book. or movie, whatever. Okay, so they have her name. They know like the general area of where she lives, but also like, what if her name wasn't Sarah Connor? Like, what if she had just a slightly more like unique name? Like if she only like if she had a name that no one else in the phone book had, killed immediately. Like the whole suspense of the first act of the film is built on the idea that there are so many Sarah Connors that he can't figure out which one it is. And it's just like, I get it's the 80s and you have to like figure out a way. Because like right in the 21st century, you just be like, Sarah Connor, I'll go cook all these people. I'm not criticizing the phone book thing. I think the phone book thing's actually interesting. It's just kind of silly looking back on it. And even at the time, it's just like, that's not a really good plan. Like to just go from Sarah Connor until you find the right one and just killing them. Like, you're a freaking robot. How do you not know that people are going to catch on? I wanted so much to like this film because I really like Arnold Schwarzenegger and I have a lot of respect for Andrew and the movies that he likes, but it is just full of just like stupid, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, the one and only. He's looking for Sarah Connor and he's in the club and he's walking by and she just happens to knock over her soda and bend over as he walks by. And it's like, I get this just like a little thing and it's just like to increase the suspense, but the whole film is built on a series of coincidences. And you can buy into one coincidence or another coincidence, but when your whole film is just a series of coincidences and nothing really has reason or purpose, it's just a boring film and I just don't care. And there's no reason to care about any of these characters. There's no reason to care about Sarah Connor. She's not an interesting character. She's merely a damsel in distress. Really, the protagonist is Kyle, and he's just kind of a shitty person. Like, he doesn't actually do anything interesting. He has no motives other than to have sex with her. That's literally all of his motives. And you would think, oh, if you're going to show us things in the future, show us things that prove his motives. But all they show in the future is just robots and him shooting at things. And there's this one interesting moment and he sees like this young kid and she goes like pew, 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 with a fake gun and he like does it back. That's the most interesting moment in the film. Like that moment right there. Like literally James Cameron fumbled upon something genuinely interesting about these characters and he's just like, no, let's just forget about that and get back to the Terminator. Kind of care about Sarah Connor because I'm supposed to, and I suppose there's like some sort of growth, kind of, but like all of the characters in this film are shitty people. There is no one to like in this film, and I'm glad that I watched it because I'm going to go on to watch Terminator 2 and maybe I'll like that film, although at 3 hours, if not longer in length, I doubt I'll like it more than this one, which is only an hour and a half long. But I feel necessary to watch at least the first 2. After that, I'm probably not going to watch anymore. It's just there's nothing interesting about these characters. There's nothing interesting about this film. Like, if you're going to lay an entire film on the action scenes, which James Cameron does time and time and time again, he does it with pretty much all of his films, the action scenes have to be interesting. I mean, I think of a Guy Ritchie film, and they're not great films, right? They're not perfect films. The characters often are just uninteresting, but the action scenes are so weird and strange and fun and just visually interesting that you're willing to give up everything. But it's just, in this film, it's just people shooting people, and there's no interest there. And yes, Arnold Schwarzenegger gives an incredible performance, and he is a great robot, and I think that was a perfect casting choice. And honestly, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger's character is, even though he's like this lifeless robot, he's the most interesting character by far. Because like he's clearly this someone who is struggling with this idea of like living in this world as not being recognized as human, but you know, not having choices, right? There's that scene where he's given a list of choices, and of course he shows, you know, fuck you, man, which shows that the Terminator both has a sense of humor and also that he has choices. He's not just this lifeless being. And I know that the second one kind of explores that a lot more than the first one, and I think it's the right choice to choose Arnold Schwarzenegger as the hero of the film or the protagonist of the film because he's by far the most interesting character. And I don't think it's at the fault of any of the other actors. The actor who plays Sarah Connor, I think she gives an incredible performance. I just don't think she was given very much to work with, and it sucks because this had so much potential to push the way for, you know, women in cinema, and instead it's just another damsel in distress, which sucks. So I don't know how to rate this. Out of like 6 thumbs, I give it 2 thumbs, 2 out of 6 thumbs. It's not a great rating. It's not a great film. Honestly, like if given the option, I would have rather just watched a musical. But I watched it, and Andrew, if you are watching this, I'm not going to take movie recommendations from you anymore. So even though I still have another 3 weeks of school left, and even though I'm running a production company full-time, and even though I have a podcast and a vlog And even though I watched a movie today, I still have free time for some reason. And I was trying to think of how best to utilize this free time. I thought about going to like play tennis because I haven't played in a super long time. But the tennis course that I go to will probably be super busy, so maybe not that. So I think instead, as you can see, I am dressed for the gym. Now I still have a book to read, and this is a book I was supposed to read for class, supposed to finish a while ago and didn't. So I figured I'd finish it now and maybe get like a short little workout in, and hopefully that will go really well. I mean, it couldn't go worse, could it? So I'm getting ready to prepare Emily a delicious meal, as is my nature. And I go to grab the garlic, and she has left this much left in it. This much garlic. Who does that? What kind of monster leaves this much garlic left in? Why not just throw it away or just use the rest of it? Why, Emily? Why not just use the rest of it yesterday?
Because it would have been too much.